What are your thoughts on the act of sex being sacred? And would you agree that society in this day and age is programming younger minds by making porn more of an acceptable way to view sex, wherein there are multiple partners, anything goes, and as they're looking to us for a moral compass, we're kind of leading them away from the sacred act of sex and loving relationships?
The answer is quite simple, and yet the complexity of the experience and the playing out in the world of dreams is very complex. Now, first of all, society doesn't change children at all. The new minds, remember, it's all mind, is creating society. So that which is poured into physical form for the desire to express its new consciousness is always expressing from one generation to the next, almost counterintuitive to the experience. So just as my parents and their parents before them were always horrified at the next generation, the new generations are seen as horrific by their parents because they're going about it very differently. Now, if I think my generation, it was almost no sex before marriage. And of course, my generation was breaking those rules, and we were. We were having, the average person was having sex in their late teens and early 20s. And there was still that sort of, depending on how religious your community was, there was still those people holding out for sex after marriage. Of course, that's all changed now. Now, there is no real act of sacredness. Every act in the world is sacred. Friendship is sacred. Any relationship is sacred. Handshake is sacred. If we're looking at the world from a sacred contract point of view, either you see the whole world as a miracle or nothing as a miracle. And since there are no varying degrees of difficulty in miracles, miracles are actually a natural occurrence that happens to miracle-mindedness. Same thing with the act of love. Now, the challenge with today's society, and of course, media children are watching, we spoke about it in the previous question, access to porn and varying degrees of porn from a very young age. And so it's almost accepted and expected that teenagers from a very young age, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, are now engaging in multiple partner sex. And they're viewing the sexual act purely as an activity of pleasure. It's lost its sacred essence as an intimacy. The movie Sex Guru, Into Me I See, intimacy, where we're leaving one activity as a final agreement of Holy Communion, Holy Companionship, the sacred act of intimacy, or what we traditionally called making love, this intimacy of two minds joining in themselves. Of course, the bodies cannot unite, only ideas of mind can unite. And there would be the sacred agreement that I see the love you are, you see the love I am, and together as one we are love. And in the Christian teachings where Christ is gathered, where two are gathered in the word, my name, love, there I am also. There's the term I am, because I am is love. And so it was a wonderful way of to really be in a communion, holy companionship, where we'd leave this one sacred place to ourselves. We could play with the world, but where we get together in holy companionship, this is our sacred vow to one another, which is a beautiful place to hold. Of course, that hasn't worked either because of all the divorces, and people come into relationships seeking to gain as opposed to seeking to share. And so that hasn't worked out. And the new generation has looked at their parents and realized sex wasn't intimate or sacred, and parents would run off and have multiple affairs. And so they just look at it from a young age and they go, okay, open partnership. And if they're exposed to sex in pornography from a young age, it becomes norm because movies and children can't tell the difference at a young age between illusion and truth. So it's all, the news is real. What we see on the screen is real. So we're watching it either on the television as movies, or we're watching it on our computers as porn. So it's all the same now. So what happens is, from a young age, we start to transfer sacred contract, the activity of sharing the love we are, because you can't give love, you just expand the love you are, and the love you are experiences the love I am, and the love I am experiences the love you are. It's the namaste greeting where I say, the love in me honors the love in you. The Lord God of me in me honors the Lord God in you. So the love I am acknowledges the love you are, and we choose to share the love I am. The I am in you is the I am in me. This is the I am sharing the essence of its essential nature. Now, in truth, we're all one. So the multiple activities of the mind, which play out at 7 or 8 billion people on this planet, and never mind all the other universes and planets where they exist, we're all interconnected. So the younger generation, at a deeper level of consciousness, because everything coming through now is evolved as it's collected the collective consciousness of its previous generation. So it comes with that evolved plus its new awakening agenda. So you see the younger generation, they're very physical, very touching. They're all interconnected. They're sharing a like-minded consciousness. And so, yes, they're sharing partners, which is beautiful. The problem is they're taking it from the love I am acknowledges the love you are and trying to expand it into the sexual activity. So it loses its sacredness. And then when you move into a relationship at a later stage in your life, and you want a long-lasting relationship, maybe you want to have children, what is left is a sacred space. But as everything, swings and roundabouts, the ebbs and the tides of the ocean, swings from one extreme to the next. So what you may have in forthcoming generations of this very sexually open generation is that the generation that comes from them may look at it and go, this is just crazy, no sex at all, or we may move back to a more fundamental sacred agreement in relationships. So the important thing from a more mature adult perspective is first try not to judge it and see it for what it is, and just rather realize that everything is either a cry for love or an act of love. But if you're the parent of a young generation like that, is try and, again, it's an opinion. I'm not a parent, so I cannot speak from this place, but try and get them to look at it from a sacred self point of view, and to keep one thing, one activity in you that would become the bonding of a sacred communion, of a holy relationship where we walk each other home. And I leave this one part reserved for you while I'm in a relationship with you. I love you, but I don't need you. And while we're together, we hold this sacred space, this sacred activity for only the two of us. And there may be a relationship that lasts a couple of years, 10 years or 20 years. While we're together, we hold this space in sacred union, as sacred space for one another. When we move on, should we move on to another relationship, even if it's wanted or even needed at a later stage as we consciously evolve? Probably not. Then we'll maybe enter into another holy communion, sacred space with someone else. So yes, it's going to be a challenge for your younger generation. But then again, this consciousness comes through and adopts, and then maybe they'll find another way to share sacred communion, sacred space. Ultimately, you're all one. And as long as we all recede and take our attention from the outside world inward, then as I am in me is the I am in you, is the I am in 8 billion people. It's the same I that is expressed as this physicality, temporal physicality. But the reality is that when even I am recedes, all that is left is the I, symbolically seen as the eye of God. The Son of God awakens and realizes he's in God and is never left. So far be it from me for me to judge the younger generation, but like any new generation, it's going to have its challenges, it's going to have its obstacles, but also they've been correcting many of the different things that the previous generations messed up on. So I feel the only real final challenge is at last sacred intimate space that you could share with one other companion if you're looking for that tradition of one other companion. Not special love as in you and me against the world, but as in Holy Communion where the two of us choose to serve the divine in each other, the I am in each other as we walk each other home.